I'm ecstatic this morning because fruit roll-ups. We have fruit roll-ups in the office.
I know. I love fruit roll-ups. I love eating them, and I love eating them at work.
Yes. It is a new sign of being an adult when you have fruit roll-ups at work. It's a new sign that like things are going well in life, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, how early is too early to eat a fruit roll-up?
Maybe
Also-
before 11?
I don't know.
Is
I've
it
done
weird?
it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Also, who cares?
I think last week I ate one around 10:18 in the morning.
Mm.
It transitioned me from my coffee into the rest of my day.
Coffee and then fruit roll-up to set you right.
Game on.
And with that, this is a new episode of For the Love of Sport.
You know what? This is a good transition to the theme of our episode today. But at work or in your life as an adult, there are no referees on your life to
true.
control what you can and cannot do. And therefore, I will eat a gummy processed item at 10 in the morning if I so choose. We cannot give such unstructured to our youth sports, and that's the beauty of a referee, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, because otherwise it would be nothing but just kids eating
Chaos.
fruit roll-ups and chaos out on the field, and you can't have that. We will get to that because we are talking with Brenda from Officially Human, and we are excited for that conversation to talk about the foundation to promote the safety, the wellness, and the education and the continued support of officials across all these different sports. But before we do that, do you know what time it is? It's Game Master time. Game Master Joe, how you doing?
I am living large. I'm ready for some games. I've got some questions. I'm going to put you guys through the ringer. It's going to be a blast. Volunteers or victims? Who wants to go?
I think it'll be me. I'm in. Let's go.
Okay. Simon,
Full send.
you have cinematic scoreboard.
I don't know why I'm celebrating.
Sponsored by Fandango.
Sponsored by Fandango. Thank you, Fandango.
This is not a paid ad, though.
In the 1993 baseball movie, The Sandlot, the boys are terrified of a legendary dog that guards a lost baseball. What is the dog's name?
Oh, no.
What do they call the dog?
Oh, no. The Beast.
You got it.
Yeah. I was like, come on.
Oh, I was going to be so sad. I had a vision of future Simon listening back to this and going, you dumb.
And follow-up question, when's the last time you watched The Sandlot?
Far too long. Is the
Yeah.
answer. It should be an every July
In your
occurrence.
summer rotation. Gosh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably been like at least 5 years for me, unfortunately.
All right, Marie, are you ready?
I'm ready. Yep.
Okay, Marie, you drew Name That Sport.
Okay,
Your
all right.
question is, this sport involves teams of players hitting a shuttlecock back and forth over a net using rackets. What is the name of this sport?
That would be badminton.
You got it. Okay. I needed a dramatic
pause.
Oh
I
my
needed a
word.
dramatic pause just to put you on edge a little bit.
I was like, I felt so confident I was going to feel like a real dum-dum.
Yeah, I mean, we both looked at each other as soon as like we both got it. Just like this can't be that simple. Badminton is it badminton?
Yeah, I've never heard anyone say badminton.
Like if you're across the pond, you say badminton.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know
Maybe
if
not
that
like
was
that.
a great accent.
Any of our UK listeners can
Badminton.
verify for us.
All right.
All right, Simon.
Okay, God.
Question number 2. You have mascot mayhem. Your question. The Rambling Wreck, a 1930 Ford Model A, is a unique mascot that leads the football team of which university onto the field?
Okay, that's gonna be the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest.
No.
Is it Georgia Tech?
Georgia Tech.
Oh,
And you knew it. It was in your back pocket. You had it.
oh,
Oh,
that's tough.
Simon. Overall,
That's why you
though,
always
Simon,
trust your gut, man.
I think, you've been the only one to get the mascot mayhems, and you're now 2 for 3. So
I mean,
that's a
thing,
still a
though.
great batting average. Marie,
Devastating.
Yeah.
you've got youth sports stars.
Okay, I feel
Your
pretty good
question.
about this.
At 19, this NBA player became the youngest in history to score 50 points in a game. Who is he?
Oh, I'm going to go with LeBron.
You got it.
Yeah.
LeBron
Wait, is he the
James.
only one that's that young that's ever been here?
I mean,
That's that good?
AG, Kobe, LeBron.
I know.
are
I
the
thought
3 high
Kobe for a
schoolers.
hot sec, but
yeah.
Woo!
Awesome.
Game.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
still reeling a little bit from Georgia
I
Tech
know.
because I knew it was Wake Forest or Georgia Tech. Good lesson for everybody. Sometimes things don't go your way. Sometimes best intentions go awry and you lose, and it's okay. Losing is okay.
Okay. We'll
And
see.
the best
I'm gonna
part
punch the wall
is
quick, but
Simon was respectful to the game official. And that is
Here
the
we
lesson.
go. Here we go. Okay, are we done with Game Master Joe
I
now?
think so.
Yeah, put
Thank
me
you, Game
away.
Master Joe. All right, well, let's hop into our interview with Brenda Hilton from Officially Human.
Which is officially one of the best names of a place that anyone's worked that we've had on.
I'm giving you a high five for that. That was
It's a
really
great
good.
name, though.
That
It
was
really
really
is.
good.
And it was a great episode. Great interview. I'm sure you've had an interaction with an official, both positive and negative,
Yes.
that I'd like you to keep in mind while you're listening to this episode.
Yes.
Myself included, I'm sure.
It's easy to put yourself in the shoes of the other team or the other players, the other coaches, but it's not always easy for us to put our feet in the shoes of the officials themselves. This was a nice reminder of that. So, Brenda, Officially Human. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Brenda Hilton, the driving force behind Officially Human, an organization dedicated to restoring respect for game officials. Brenda currently serves as the Senior Director of Officiating at the collegiate level, bringing over 22 years of experience in low to high major collegiate officiating. Her extensive career has seen her collaborate closely with assigners and officials at the highest level of Division I men's basketball and football. Brenda's deep appreciation for officials' vital role in sports events and her commitment to their recognition as leaders on and off the fields and courts have made her a respected advocate within the officiating community. Before her current role, Brenda spent 11 years at the Summit League, where she honed her skills in budget preparation, contract negotiation, and HR management. Her passion for the treatment, recruitment, and retention of officials is well known. Through Officially Human, she strives to ensure that officials are respected and valued for their crucial contributions to sports. And I believe I'm going to quote myself again of Monica Geller from Friends saying, "Rules control the fun." So you got to make sure that the people who control the fun are also stuck
Having
up
fun.
for and have fun at the same time. With all that said, and many, many more, Brenda Hilton, welcome to the For the Love of Sport podcast.
Well, thanks you guys for having me, and I love the new setup there, so that's awesome.
Amazing.
You know, anytime I can get in front of people to talk about this and share stories that I've had, and just get people to understand that these officials, they have lives, they have spouses, they have kids, they have drama, they have tragedy. So my goal is just to create more conversation around sport officials. So thank you for having me. I very much appreciate it.
We're all on the same page too, where it's something that maybe is in the back of our heads, but doesn't really get brought to the forefront a lot, where it's very easy just to, throw a very large statement of just like, the officials got us again, when really there's a person behind that. It's not a robot doing these things or making these calls.
Whether you're involved in youth sports right now, being a parent, a coach, an admin, whatever it might be, or just someone who listens, a friend of the pod, if you will, listening, and maybe you're not as closely tied to youth sports, I feel like officiating is a topic of conversation even in like the professional world. We'll probably touch less on like the pro world and more of the kind of youth sports, high school, a little bit of collegiate to the glowing introduction that was given. So just wrap your head around that as well. But it's all levels. So hopefully you learned something today. Hopefully you leave with a little bit more empathy and understanding of what all goes into that. So
yeah, 1,000%. And if you want to have good competition, you need good officials. Otherwise, you just have, Tommy who's just going to throw a tantrum because, the ball wasn't out of bounds and I said so. No, you need someone like an official to say like, Tommy, go sit down in the corner. I got this now. I wonder, like, before we hop into, the world of officiating and all the different things that you guys are doing at Officially Human, I wonder if you can talk to us about your own experience in youth sports, whether that's currently, whether as a kid, and sort of how that led into being part of Officially Human.
First of all, I was not really an athlete. I played basketball in high school. My 7th grade year of basketball, when I started, I got cut. And I was so mad that I got cut that I went and I met with the coach afterwards. I'm like, how could you cut me? I'm as good as those 3 other people that you kept. Well, somehow I got on the team. So played basketball in 7th and 8th grade and then all through high school, and ran track till my senior year. I didn't really dive into youth sports until our son started playing. Then around the same time I got hired at, it was then the Mid-Continent Conference, and started to really just who are these officials and how do they get promoted? How do they get hired? How do they get trained? And why in the world do they do it? This is crazy town. So learned as much as I could in every sport that the Summit League, the MidCon hosted, and got to know the coordinators really well. I was there for 11 years, and then I got called to the Big Ten to come over and do only men's basketball. So I came over to the Big Ten, and I did only men's basketball, and that's where I learned so much about the treatment of officials. And I remember there was a game that the official came off the court and said, "Do these people think we want to make these mistakes?" And so my own youth experience wasn't, you know, I didn't have a lot of it, but I watched my son. Now, I will share a story. My son was just starting umpiring youth baseball. There was a coach that was arguing the call. Now, my son's like 12. And something came over me. And then the other coach came out, and I was watching. And I went over there. And I said, "Where's the rule book? Do you guys have the rule book?" And neither one of them had the rule book. And I said, "Okay, call stands." And I walked off, and I'm like, "What did I just do? Like, what am I doing?" My son was mortified, but he did officiate a little bit longer. But I mean, just at the youth sport level, you realize how competitive it is, and what are we doing to these kids? Through all that time, I kept learning there's a shortage, there's a retention problem. Nobody was doing anything to humanize, at least that we could find. Maybe there's groups out there that were, but not that I could find. And so I was bored on a Saturday morning. All of our kids we were empty nesters, and I wrote a business plan that wasn't really very good. Showed it to my husband and pitched it to him, and he said, "Well, we can work on the plan, but your presentation, if you get in front of people, you've sold it." I'm like, "Okay,
He's
all
like,
right,
"Yes, but."
yeah, yes.
Core
Let me
concept.
help you with that plan." Yeah, I'll tell you guys, it's interesting because you can talk to people all over the country, all over the world. Everybody knows this is a problem
Yeah.
until we have to put money towards it.
Mm.
And I say all the time, and we have a graphic that we share a lot: recruit, humanize, retain. And that's the key. We need training, of course, everybody has training, but you can't have one of those without the other.
Yeah.
And if we can just get people to invest as much money in humanizing as they do in recruiting and training, we might make some progress.
It's so true. I feel like we've talked to so many people, and the conversation of officials usually like gets brought up and everyone agrees it's a problem, but then nobody really knows like either what to do or how to fix it, or the willingness or the time and energy, or to your point, the money to actually do anything about it is where it kind of gets stuck. It's everyone's favorite problem, is the one that you don't really want to actually try to solve.
100%. It's certainly been like brought up a little bit, and it makes its way to the surface. And then people are like, "Well, we'll tackle that another time," or like, "That's somebody else's deal." Cheers for you guys for picking this up and shining a light on it and really focusing on it, whether it's accreditation, credentials, teaching, and attention for. I'm wondering if you have any metrics, stat points that speak to the current landscape of officiating, maybe in general, not just in youth sports. Double down on the need for a program like yours.
It was one of the first things we did in 2019. We conducted a survey with 15 state high school associations and got 19,000 responses. 50% of them quit because of treatment. However, only 12% of those 19,000 were under the age of 34.
Wow.
And so think about that.
Yeah.
We're not recruiting, we're not getting the 18, 20-year-olds. For every 100 officials that gets patched this summer in 2024, in 2026, only 20 to 30 of them will be left. So we've spent time, money, resources, and it's just a vicious cycle. And actually, one of our PSAs is called a vicious cycle, and that's what it talks about. We bring them on, we train them, we mentor them, and then they run away.
Yeah.
And they get thrown the gauntlet. And then, you know, there's no like returning like programs or just somebody to come to afterwards, like, "Okay, so let's talk about performance," or anything like that. It's just like, cool, I'm going to make my way to my car and hope I called a good game, which, isn't the most.
And hope you don't get followed.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to share like one story, I guess 2 stories in general, where my dad was so vocal on the sidelines at youth soccer that my mom was like, go become a referee, because until you become a referee or like memorize the rule book, you aren't allowed to yell anymore. It's disruptive to the game. And Matt, certainly my old brother didn't like it either. He became a referee and then had a completely different mindset going into this thing, and enjoyed his time, actually, enjoyed it because like he got to go with me to all these games and tournaments and things. So you get the combination of things. He got the appreciation for it. But then my brother was an umpire and loves baseball more than anyone I've ever met. Tons of enthusiasm, knows everything about it, knows his stuff, and then stopped after the season because it was way too much. It's Little League baseball, and yet we treat it like it's the World Series each time. And he had so many frustrated parents and so many things where it's just like, if that's all your experience is, why would you keep doing it? There's a lot of things to be said about either the environment, the atmosphere, but what sort of things are you advocating for? What sort of tools can be put into play to help, I guess, the environment, or even help like parents or people on the sidelines to just maybe take a breath?
So there's a couple of things that we try to talk to our organizations about. Is number one, you have to start with communication. And we know that 95% of the fans are good fans. It's the 5% that we're trying to get to there and maybe even get in their headspace a little bit. So what Officially Human brings to a partnership is we have an Elevate Respect course. Organizations can mandate or have parents go through. It's about a 20-minute course. We just introduced ER coach's perspective. But the other thing we do is we produced a series of PSAs this year. We have signage. We know that everybody takes in information differently. So for you going to a game, maybe it's a sign that's at the concession stand because you like to go to the concession stand a lot and stand in line. There's a sign that says,
I do. I love going to the concession stand.
See?
Top tier activity.
See? Maybe there's a sign that says, our organization has partnered with Officially Human as a grassroots effort to humanize sport officials. Another sign could be the officials working today's game could be your bus driver, could be your local police officer, could be the janitor at your school. You have to find the way to meet your constituents, your customers, to get to them. And that's what we bring to the table. We talk a lot about, how do you want to get to your customer? We have web ads now in our media kit. We've really expanded our media kit because of that. What's it going to take to get to that person? The other thing we want to do is we want to empower that 5%. We don't want anybody fighting in the stands with another parent. But we want to empower them to say, hey, there's a shortage of officials. Now, that's the way we approach that. And if there's an organization out there that's already doing something and just wants to enhance it, that's what we're here for.
That's amazing. I know that we'll link to the media kit and the other resources in our show notes. So if you're an organization, you want to like have these, thrown up around the facility, check the show notes. We'll make sure to have everything linked, and we'll certainly have an article too. I would like one that just be an audio clip on a bullhorn that just says, "Read the room, buddy," or something along those lines. Just
it's like, you have keyboard, heroes who, when they're behind a keyboard, feel like they're empowered to say anything, is because they don't humanize the people on the other end, right? It's really easy to have strong feelings.
Yes.
If you're not really thinking that, hey, at the end of the day, to your point, this could be someone in our community working, trying to make youth sports or whatever level of sport better. And to your point too, you had mentioned like officials aren't trying to make the wrong call. They're not trying to, miss something.
There's
we're
no
all
advantage.
Yeah.
Like why would they?
We're all human. You can think, when you're at work, I'm sure we make a handful of mistakes every single day, and
some people
certainly sometimes more. That where you're saying like, hey, this could be somebody that and care about, and think about it through their lens a little bit. So just giving that perspective is so important. But
and that's a great segue to a story I tell a lot, and probably tell it ad nauseum if my husband was here. But one of the basketball tournaments I was working in my early years, one of our officials, his wife had died of breast cancer in December. And he came back on the court in February. And in March, he worked our basketball tournament. And a fan said, hey, Mike, why don't you go home and sit in your lounge chair and think about your wife? And I mean, that's a true story.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to react to that other than throw the person out? I mean,
immediately.
And these are real stories. And so that really, really struck me. And then there was another situation where high level game, the crew is walking off the court at halftime, and a fan spits on him. So what does everybody expect that official to do? The natural reaction is to kind of go after the person. So then you've got security involved. You've got to get the crew back to their locker room. They have to regroup, and they probably only have 10 minutes now, the 15-minute halftime. They have to come back out, and the world expects these people to call 100% game. I would love to go into somebody's office and yell and scream at them. And I mean, honestly, this whole mission of mine has made me a better person and much calmer when I approach people at restaurants or you know, any service industry.
Like roughing, officiating, whatever you know word you want to call it, is like they're doing a service, and we talked about it before too. But if you take a step back, like your kid cannot participate in the sport that they hopefully love participating in without the people who are there, and it's such an unthanked and probably unappreciated. But I think it comes from a lack of like really understanding and taking a step back and saying like, without them, none of this happens. It almost just feels like it's assumed that they're going to be there. It's assumed that they are enjoying it. It's assumed that they are going to your point, make 100% of the calls, which, let's think about life. No one is expected to be 100% perfect in anything they do. So it's incredibly unfair. And we talk about this too with like parenting. I would say like most people are trying their best to do as best as they can. But how are we kind of helping people and reminding people along the way of that? And so I'm curious, Brenda, at Officially Human, you kind of mentioned, obviously, the story of your son who was 12 years old and umping games. Maybe he was, umping kids about the same age as him, maybe a little bit younger. You know, officiating can be fun, and there are positives to it. And a lot of times, people should be going up to you and thanking you for this. Like, what kind of things are you guys doing from a retention perspective to help organizations keep some of those younger refs so that they're kind of in the system and you don't see those numbers that you were talking about earlier?
It has to start at the top. 100%. It has to start at the top of the organization. And when they make this important or a point of emphasis, just like we do in rules knowledge throughout the sports every year, if they make it a point of emphasis, then that's going to resonate down. I don't work with individual organizations. I work with their overarching organization. Sure. There's a group in Chicago that I work with, Genuine Rain Softball. Every year they have a group of their older girls. They have to umpire a whole weekend of games. I think it's a U8.
I love that. Yeah. That's
how you do that. They wear Officially Human shirts. Mm-hmm. They interact with the parents. If you can start to do that, and really, you guys, this is grassroots.
Yeah.
And we haven't even scratched the surface of this. If organizations at the top make it a priority to, hey, we're going to have signage if they don't want their families to go through Elevate Respect. If they have other things that can be done, then that's what they have to do. But we're playing the long game here. This is not going to be fixed in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think it holds true though too on the other side of taking ownership. And I think it was Chad Greenway actually.
I believe it.
He helps run a basketball organization here in Minnesota. And this conversation of officials and parents who are, yelling and screaming on the sidelines, kind of one of those things we were talking about, right? Like it's a problem everyone knows exists, but like unless you do something and take a stand on it. And so I think, it was a parent of a kid who's one of their best athletes, very well respected and well known in the organization. Like a lot of people probably would just be like, like it's fine. They'll learn or they'll catch on to it. But like, it's also an action of saying like, no, as an organization, we also are going to take an action and say, that's not what we're about. Yeah. You're not going to be that parent who's yelling at an official, set the bar or kind of draw a line in the sand. I think that has to happen before people, unfortunately, sometimes kind of understand, oh, wait, like this actually isn't going to be good for me. Elevate Respect program that you guys have is a little bit of like, we're going to draw a line in the sand. Parents, you're going to go through this. Like, this is what our organization is about, and we're not going to tolerate anything less than that.
There's a lot to that, just like taking the lead as an organization to say like, if there's a retention issue, if there's an issue with officials, or if there's an issue on the court or on the field or wherever it is, we will make sure that we have a standing rule that anybody who crosses that line is not part of our organization. And when you think about that, when you're an attendee, when you're just like a parent, or when you're just watching, you're there just to enjoy the game and you want the best for your kids. But to have that in the back of your mind is like, I signed a code of conduct at the beginning of the year that said, I will be respectful of officials. I will make sure to stand up to anybody who is, arguing or using dehumanizing language against that. And you don't just have to be a former pro football player who's a gigantic person to do this. You can also just do this as a regular person. But I think he had said that too, is like, it helps when I'm me and I'm my size. There's often the thing of like, oh, what do I say? What am I supposed to say? Why should it be me? It starts with one person, and that mentality that everybody else has can jump up and advocate for the right thing to be done. So, more often than not, it doesn't matter what you say. It's just the act of saying, knock it off. I was thinking of another PSA for you, and feel free to take this and run with it, Brenda. Just go ahead and hire a couple actors just to go to regular everyday places, whether it's a coffee shop or a fast food place or a gas station, and then have them like cross over the line and start like really yelling and getting in the face of cashiers, and then just like have it cut to black with just like, don't be that guy, respect the people, respect officials. You wouldn't do this in any other situation.
I'll send you our orchestra video, because it is a youth orchestra video, orchestra concert, and the parents start standing up yelling at the conductor.
That's so good.
That's so good. Yeah.
And they say, if you wouldn't do it at a concert, don't do it in the stands.
Hey, conductor, how about something new? You played this last year. Come on, get your head out of your sacks. Move!
Triple Crown Sports was one of our first partners. They host about 200 events across the country. Their softball tournament in July, or end of June and 1st of July, they'll have 1,100 teams from across the country come to this tournament. They host hundreds and hundreds of baseball teams at their tournaments. A couple of years ago, this was kind of right coming out of COVID, there was a video of a coach that called his catcher and went to the pitcher's mound, sent everybody back. The pitcher pitches the ball, and this is like a U8 team game. Pitcher pitches the ball, and the catcher moves out of the way so the ball hits the umpire. So now that team gets ejected, it gets removed from the tournament. And so when we were talking to Triple Crown about it, I said, well, what happens when that guy just forms another team and tries to get into another one of your tournaments? Well, they have a pretty sophisticated registration process, and they actually did do that. They tried to get in, and Triple Crown went back to them and said, hey, you're not welcome here. So Triple Crown has taken this very, very, very seriously. Their leadership is 100% behind Officially Human and what we're doing. And when we go to tournaments of theirs, we do signage, and we'll do kind of activations and have people, we'll suck people in and have talk about this. Yeah. But that's an example of an organization, Genuine Rain, taking it seriously.
Yeah. And almost saying like, I mean, at the end of the day, these organizations, registration for them is how they generate revenue. And so they're taking a stand saying like, we're willing to put money on the line and say, we don't need your, money or your registration. If you're not going to follow the kind of guidelines that we have, it's just not going to happen. It takes a certain leadership, willingness to lead, even if it's going to have a negative impact, because to your point, we're playing the long game.
Everything that's in the show notes from a media kit to everything else. And I wonder, Brenda, if you can help for anybody who wants to include this, that maybe doesn't have this already in their own code of conduct, that just wants to incorporate it. Do you have some just talk tracks or just maybe bullet points that they can just amend to their current code of conduct just to make sure that that's up to date, so they don't have to do that themselves?
We actually do not. However, I can reach out. I can get some stuff pretty easily.
If you want to make that part of your own code of conduct or use a templated one, we can certainly have that created and put that in the show notes. I want to talk about like the experience of officiating itself. And I was going through my head like, when did I ever officiate anything? And it was one time. It was 30 minutes. It was an adult kickball league game. So And it was the most anxiety-induced 30 minutes of my life. Made like one call like after a 5-second buffer because I was like, oh yeah, I'm on third base. I have to make a call. And it was the wrong call. And it's not something that I would want to do again, maybe in that setting because it's adult kickball. And if you want to talk about people who take it way too seriously, that would be a prime group for that. But I do want to, look at the potential of officiating again. What sort of lifelong skills, what sort of development go hand in hand with being an official, especially at a young age?
Well, do we only have 30 minutes left? Because we could talk about this all afternoon. There's a couple of really important points when it comes to officiating. I've never met an official that is not organized. They know how to pack a suitcase like nobody's business. They know how to book travel like nobody's business. But when you're talking about on court, you learn about conflict management. Your network of people goes so far and wide. And think about the number of youth coaches there are. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're somebody probably maybe servicing your truck. You have every career that you're going to run into, blue collar, white collar, I don't care. You learn about money management. You have to learn how to do taxes. How many people make $2,000 officiating, but they didn't know that there's things that they can do with that money to reduce their tax implications? Like there's so many things that you can learn in life. And there's some really bad supervisors out there in all sports. So you have to learn to navigate those waters of, this supervisor's telling me if I go over here and work for this supervisor, he's never going to give me games again. Okay, well, how do you navigate those waters? You could literally learn every life skill you need to learn in officiating.
So much like on the spot ability to like improvise. No game is going to happen exactly like the last game or event or meet or whatever your officiating is. So it's also all about like, okay, things are going to come at me. It's going to be fast. I'm going to have to adapt. I'm going to have to improvise. And I'm sure in all of our jobs, I know for sure, that's something you have to do all the time. And I think a lot of people who don't have that experience, it can be really overwhelming to have that experience the first time when in a job where you're like,
absolutely,
I don't know what to do. And you kind of shut down. And so I just feel like that's one that stands out to me in officiating is like, you're kind of on your own out there unless, there's timeouts. You can kind of like regroup with your crew or with your group. But like for the most part, you're out there, you're making split decisions at any given time. And that alone is super challenging, and you would acquire skills as you're kind of working through that.
The other thing I failed to mention was the acting. You have to sell every call, whether it's right or wrong. And then if you make the wrong call, you have to be mature enough to be humbled to go over to the coach and say, hey, I blew that one. I just blew it.
I can't, is it Adam Grant who said it, but it was the most enviable like trait to have is confident humility. Like the confidence in what you know and the humility to say I was wrong and learn from it. And I think officials, maybe the best officials, are the ones that can absolutely walk the two of just being, I'm confident that this is the right call, but I'm willing to hear you out to what your disagreement is. Equal confidence. We are equals here. I'm going to hear you out, and we're going to talk about this together. But I think that's another life skill of confidence in general, of just like being able to stand and deliver on your call and stand the ground on that. There's tons of different things that I did not even think about before this call of traits that are developed when you're an official.
Well, and think about when you are anybody that's a veteran official will say the hardest games you will ever work are the youth level. So that's where you're going to learn your game management skills, your communication skills, your listening skills. You're going to learn all of those. And you're going to build relationships with coaches and assistant coaches and the people at the scorer's table. All these people you're going to build these relationships with. And somebody that's really, really shy and doesn't like to do that, that's a great profession for them to get into. You have to learn. It's going to force you to learn to talk to people. So parents, if you're listening and you have a very shy child, get them into officiating.
Parents, you play specific sports or you don't play any sports, so that could be a complete unknown. So there's already that level of like, well, I don't really understand officiating across different sports. But there are a lot of sports too that require multiple different levels of officiating, right? Like if your kid's like shy and you're maybe like, well, they can't just get thrown out there. There's a lot of times like there's like a secondary ref or an assistant ref that they could start with. I don't know. Are there programs out there or resources to kind of like ease someone into officiating if they're not ready to just like take the full plunge and be like, I'm thinking soccer because that's just always where my mind goes. Like you've got the side refs for, you know, older ages, but it's usually where you're not the only person. Obviously sometimes you are, but I don't know. Is there anything that you guys do or see or, you know, tips that you would give in those instances?
We will preach to new officials is find somebody that is a mentor for you. You have to have that person that you can call at 2:00 in the morning because you just drove 4 hours and made $50 and you got home at midnight and you're amped up because somebody yelled at you. You have to have somebody that you can call at 2:00 in the morning when you still can't sleep. And there's so many people out there that want to mentor officials. Some organizations may try to match you with one, but you really have to find your own, the person that's going to work for you. And listen to you. Sometimes, you know, they just want to be heard, just like all of us. I just want to gripe.
Yeah, I just want 10 minutes to just complain, and you don't need to do anything else. I'm just gonna complain, and then you're gonna say sorry, and then I'm gonna go to bed, and it's gonna be much better.
I like that. I want to see if we could put a voicemail together and throw that out there for any official or any parent. Like, if you are about to fume and vent at someone, instead of taking it out on them, like call this voicemail and just get it out. Like the For Love of Sport venting voicemail for officials and for fans and for players. Just get it all out there. That's fine. And don't use names. More humanizing. It makes so much more difference when you have someone that you can go to and talk to that can understand and has gone through, you know, a similar experience. That is a different level.
The other thing too, when we talk about people at games yelling, and by the way, I also want to make it clear that I was not a perfect fan when my son was in grade school. I was very competitive, and if I could just take the yelling off of some of those videos, you know, the big VHS, you know, recorders. I would love to know the stat of people that are yelling at officials at games. Why are they really yelling? Is it because they're in an argument with their spouse? They had a bad day at work. Somebody is sick. Why is it really that you feel like that is the person on the court or field that you can yell at when anytime you want? Anytime you want, you can yell at these people. What's the percentage of people that really have something else going on?
It's something where it's just commonly accepted. Like that's just something that you like that go hand in hand.
I have personally never used my honk in my car.
Oh, sure.
So my horn, that's another one that I'm like, people can just honk whenever they want in traffic at whoever, even if it's not their fault. They can just honk, and everyone's honking. Sorry, this is a very personal thing right now because because there's so much construction outside my apartment right now that it's constant honking. People are honking to go. They're honking because they're mad. But it's the same thing, Brenda, to your point. I think people are stressed after work. They're running late in the morning. It's not my fault that there's construction. It's nobody's fault that's driving. We're all trying to just get to where we're trying to get to in the most efficient way possible.
And kids and lack of sleep kind of go hand in hand. So then emotional regulation suffers
It's the same thing, but it's like everyone's just honking at each other. Like why did we decide to put horns in cars where people can just honk? Like I feel like that shouldn't be a thing. It's the same thing with parents yelling. Like they just yell at a 12-year-old kid at a soccer game because they can.
I'm going to take that with me, and I've never heard it explained like that ever.
There we go.
So I think this is great. I've learned
stop honking.
so much.
It's just like I'm on day like 67 of this construction, and I'm just at a bit of my wit's end with it.
Or like when fireworks were going on July 6th and 7th and 8th outside my house, and I was like, I have a baby and she is sleeping, and you guys knock it off. What is that going to help? What am I going to do? I have zero authority.
It's an interesting point you both bring up because at a sporting event, they're accessible.
Yeah.
You can, I mean, sure, you could go find the person that's doing the fireworks, or sure,
Yeah.
you could go outside of your apartment in your pajamas and yell at somebody, but by the time you get there, but at a sporting event, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can get to them very
That's
easily.
true.
I did a podcast series in 2020. Probably 5 of them I talked about when we come out of COVID, parents are going to be angrier than ever because somebody took something away from their child.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to pay because that child didn't get to be seen at whatever tournament that was scheduled that got canceled, and they paid this money. And I've been right on that.
Yeah.
That we came out of that and we are just an angry society.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's to your point too. Like I think, and I choose to believe, because I want to believe that optimistically about people, that I generally think people, to your point, want where it comes from a lot of the times is they want what's best for their child, their family, XYZ. They come from a place of that, but how it manifests can sometimes be extremely like negative and unhealthy, and ultimately probably provide a worse experience for your child than maybe what would have happened. And so it's hard because it's the same thing where, you assume there's positive intent, but it certainly doesn't come out that way. And so there's kind of an imbalance there.
Check yourself before the game even starts, before the whistle starts, before anything. Just take a deep breath and understand, maybe it's a mantra we'll include at the end of every episode, that, remember everybody involved, from coaches to volunteers to, the players to the officials. Everyone's human. Everyone's volunteering their time. At the end, like before anything, let's just be respectful and assume positive intent no matter what. I want to ask your opinion about when I was thinking about officials and I was thinking about sporting events, there are, basketball, football, officials they're accessible, but it's, it's not really accessible from a standpoint of like a coach is like walking on the field or walking on the court and like, getting into an ump's face. Baseball, however, this is part of the game. And I want to know your opinion about that, where, a part of being a manager is getting into the official's face. I'm assuming at the U Sport level too, of like showing your players like that you have their back and you're taking one for their team and you get thrown out. Being thrown out as part of the game. And I wonder, I want to know kind of your thinking around that, your opinion about that, and then officially humans like stance in that and how to handle that situation, and also advocate for coaches and managers to go up and practice yelling affirmations at the umpire of saying, "You're doing a great job. This is a hard job. You're doing the right thing. Please throw me out." That's what you should be doing, by the way.
Right. There's so many elements in some of these games, and baseball is the prime example of what does that look like. Now, I think if a coach is going to do that, there has to be follow-up with the players and the parents to say, hey, you know what, it was the heat of the moment. This is what I saw. Couldn't get there and communicate with them, because a lot of times it's all breakdown of communication. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to say that 100% of these officials out there and umpires, they're not perfect. And some of them have to check themselves. You don't have to be the umpire that I'm not going to put up with anything today. If you just build that relationship with the umpire pregame or the coaches pregame, maybe some of this stuff would be avoided. I think it's all about the follow-up. Hey, I lost my cool last game. I'm not going to do that this game. Kids, this isn't the way to handle things, but they have to have some humility as well. And we know that a lot of them won't.
Yeah. It's easier said than done, I would say, for sure. So
I solved nothing there. I solved nothing.
All right, Brenda, before like Simon said, we are running short on time. We want to make sure we get to the fun part of asking you all of our this or that questions. But before we do that, maybe first question, what are you most excited for about maybe the next 5 years for Officially Human? What do you think that entails? And then I know you did say that you had some other fun stats, so I want to make sure we get all the stats, because we're nerds when it comes to numbers and stats too. So if you had any other nuggets to call out just to educate our dear listener, we would love to hear that as well.
So let's go with the stats first. And I just pulled a few stats. The NCAA put a handful of years ago put out a chart, and it's the number of high school athletes that compete at the NCAA level.
Mm-hmm.
And in high school baseball, 7.1% of athletes get to compete at the NCAA level.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives us 92.9% of those athletes that can become umpires.
There you go.
Sure.
In basketball, for men from high school to the NCAA, it's 3.4%. And women, it's 3.8%.
Yeah.
You have endless opportunities to stay involved in the sport that you've played for 4 years of high school, even though you're not going to get a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And Division III, you don't get scholarships. So you can still stay involved in the game. Softball, it's 5.4%, and volleyball, it's 3.9%. So that's what people have to realize, and those are some of the conversations that we have to have, is you can still stay involved and make money doing it.
There you go.
So to the question of what I'm excited about, I founded this in 2019. It's a little bit of a grind. You're trying to change culture, and you have a lot of naysayers out there. However, in this summer, and I'm talking summer of 2024, they're not all announced yet, but we will have 7 Division I conferences and 13 Division II conferences as partners. We just signed a partnership with a group that hosts grade school basketball tournaments on behalf of the state in 10 states. Minnesota is one of them. That's a huge opportunity for us to get to a lot of parents.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 10 youth organizations as partners. That's about 225,000 athletes that them and their parents have access to us. And so the exciting part is it's taken a hot minute for us to get there, but we are now getting recognized for the work that we're doing. And sometimes borderline non-creepy stalking people to get on their podcast really helps.
Listen, we felt appreciated,
Yeah, I felt
not
honored.
stalked. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
I'll
love
tell you
it.
something. It takes 12 to 18 months to foster a relationship, to get
Mhm.
people to like, okay, wait, who is this person? What
Yeah.
does she do? She's never been an official. How does she bring
Mhm.
anything to the table? So yes, it's been a hot
Yeah.
minute.
When you reached out to us and then we hopped on with you before the recording, it was immediately we could sense your passion. And it was definitely a message that we feel strongly about. We've had many conversations about. It's the perfect conversation to have for our audience. And so we just want to obviously thank you for being on, but you're not quite off the hook yet. So
That's
Simon's
right.
going to walk you through the next section here. So
Rapid fire gauntlet, this quick twitch gauntlet that we have, and it's 5 this or that questions, 5 single gut check questions. Just first thing that pops into your head, and there's no thinking involved. It is all rapid fire answers at a rapid fire pace. You ready to go?
Yep.
are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
Is it pronounced GIF or GIF?
GIF.
Are you listening to a podcast or an audiobook?
Podcast.
Yeah.
Would you prefer new clothes or new gadgets?
Close.
Rather see 10 minutes into the future or travel 10 minutes to the past?
Past.
All right, gut checks. What warm-up song always gets you pumped?
Any Nelly song.
Yeah, let's go. That's awesome.
Who was your favorite athlete to watch or that you admired growing up? If you had one.
I'd have to say Michael Jordan because we moved to Chicago in 1990.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been a fun time.
Best sports movie, in your opinion?
Probably Remember the Titans. It's just a good feel-good movie.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It is so good.
All right. I think it says best silver screen official. Is that
That was my question, and I wanted
that
to.
a thing?
I wanted to throw out there: is there somebody that comes to mind who is the best referee or official in a movie?
Well, there's a guy from Indiana, Eric Harmon, who was in Hoosiers.
Okay. And he was a legit official.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Great answer, Mike. See, you are all about this, Brenda. I love it. All right, to finish up here, best sports advice you've ever received.
Don't take it so seriously.
I like that
I love
one.
it.
Like, it's just not that serious.
It's
Just
really
the
not
end of the
that
day.
serious. Here's your stats. 3.4% of boys are going to play basketball in college. Wrap your head around that.
Have some
Yeah.
fun.
It's just not that serious. It's for the love of sport.
It's for the love of sport.
That's right.
Yeah.
What a segue.
Perfect. It's perfect. Is there any last message you'd want our listeners to understand about Officially Human, your guys' mission? Any advice?
Just check out officiallyhuman.com and
Okay.
find out. We've got some great videos on there and some old podcasts. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. We'll drop all those links in the show notes. But one more time, Brenda, thank you for hopping on, taking the time. We certainly believe in your mission and everything you guys are doing over there. So keep it up.
Well, thanks to you guys for having me on. It was great.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We will promise to, when we close these episodes out, to make sure we have a reminder for everybody. Be kind
Thank
to
your
everybody
officials.
involved, including the officials.
Exactly. I'm a hot
All right.
dog. All right, see ya.
And yeah, get them some popcorn. They deserve it.
Yes.
You do deserve it. All right. Thank you,
Brenda.
Brenda.
All right, you guys. Thank you. Have a great week.
Brenda, thank you again so much for hopping on and being part of the show, the For the Love of Sport podcast. It was great to have her on. I know that we will, for all of you video fans out there, we will have one of their spots in the episode.
Oh, really? That's
yeah.
fun. That's gonna be
Absolutely.
sweet.
They sent us some files for us to throw in, so we got a couple PSAs that we'll throw in there, and they're very well done.
We've really made it, you know.
I mean, it feels good.
You know, you see all these other popular podcasts such as ours
Such as
getting,
us. Yes, it's really
of the same
it's
echelon.
us.
You know, we're part of it.
It is,
Yeah, it's us and them.
and if no one else is saying it, we are.
Okay. Anyways, great episode.
Great
Thanks for
episode.
listening. Without you, we would not be where we are. Hopefully,
Very
people are
true.
enjoying the videos. Let us know if you have any suggestions, anything that you want to hear. We're getting into the outro, so this has been another episode of For the Love of Sport. It's brought to you by Sports Engine. And yeah, like I said, if you've got questions, thoughts, concerns, comments, if you have anything for Game Master Joe, because apparently we're not supposed to heckle him anymore. So if you,
Yeah,
dear
apparently that's
listener, want to
frowned
heckle
upon.
him,
Yeah.
please do. You know where to find us.
ftlospod@nbcuni.com. This has been another episode of For the Love of Sport. Our wonderful crew that helps make this episode happen and brings it to you live each and every week are the host Simon McKenzie, myself, and Marie Fitzgerald, along with our marketing expert Kelsey Irwin Formanek, our prodigious producer Joe Brezonic, the exceptional sound engineering of the great Trey Stone, and Leslie Albano, who is our video editor.
Oh, yeah.
And magician behind the scenes to help make these videos come to life on Sports Engine Play.
Yeah, on the destination for you Sports Engine Play.
That's right.
That's right. And you know what it's all for?
It's for the love of sports. So if you're on your way to a practice, a game, if you're on your way back from a practice, a game, be sure to thank the officials, the people, the volunteers, the coaches, the players, and everybody involved because, again, like Marie said, it is for the love of sport.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.